What's going on, everybody? This is Justin in Rochester with Purple and Gold for Days, and I got my boy SK here with me. And it is the night before the Super Bowl, so we're going to give you a little live action here tonight. You know, one of these days, SK, sometime in our lifetime, it's going to be the night before the Super Bowl, and we're actually going to be doing a show previewing a Vikings Super Bowl appearance. Wouldn't that just be nice, my brother? How you doing?
My fingers are still crossed. I'm still waiting on that moment. Hopefully it comes soon, but who knows? But either way, as a football fan, it's a bittersweet. It's a bittersweet feeling because after the Super Bowl, football season is over. We're looking to free agency in the draft, but nonetheless, looking forward to the Super Bowl. It's going to be a good game. Kansas City, Philadelphia. It's going to be a good football. If you're a football fan, this should be a good game.
No, I agree. What's up, Dave? Thanks for joining us. Dave, you wanted the first in all the time, so thank you kindly for joining us. If you hit that like button and hit that share button, let's get some people up in this chat here tonight. Yeah. Thanks, as always, Dave, for joining us. I guess we'll start there. We're going to talk a little Super Bowl. We're going to talk some Vikings offseason because SK ain't been on the airways for a couple of days. So we're going to get his opinion. We're going to get his opinion on what the Vikings have done. And we'll probably talk a little bit of NFL rewards, get a little Justin Jefferson some love here as well. So let's start with the big game tomorrow. Philadelphia and Kansas City, both number one seeds. And the last time a number one seed actually went on to win a Super Bowl was 2017 with the Philadelphia Eagles beating the New England Patriots. So one way or the other, a number one seed's going to win this game here. So we'll get into some of the matchups in a little bit here. But what's your initial reaction here? What are you thinking about this game tomorrow, SK?
My first reaction to this game is, Lord, please do not let the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl. Please. I cannot go another 5-6 months of Eagles fans just filling themselves. My two closest friends are huge Eagles fans, so they're the most obnoxious people ever for the past 4 or 5 months. I can't hear it anymore. So please, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, it's your time.
Yes. You know, it's funny. Mike and I were in the spaces the other day, and there was a Philadelphia Eagles fan in there, and very, very respectable, very respectful, not like talking trash or coming in here, trying to blow it up, a nice, candid conversation. He says to us, why do Vikings fans hate the Eagles so much? Is it because we beat you? Like, it's not that you beat us, dude. It really isn't. And I said the same thing that I say to my daughter. I say, I do not judge an entire group of people by the actions of the small minority that are just stupid people, regardless of what walk of life we're talking about, whether it's fandom, whether it's real life, anything. But the problem is your reputation precedes you when you've got people. It's one thing. Listen, I was at the Packers game earlier this season when, there's Packer fans there. We talk trash, boo-hoo, this, whatever. But it didn't turn into violence or assaults by throwing full cans of beer or throwing eggs at people. It's like, I understand that that's a small segment of Philadelphia's fandom population, and we shouldn't judge everybody, and we don't. But it just seems like there's just so many more of them when you have incidents like that. But we had a nice conversation. He's just like, okay, that just like your fan base has drunken idiots at the game. We all not like that. And, we kind of cleared the air up a little bit. Having said that, I have zero. In fact, I have a negative desire to see Philly win this game tomorrow. As much fun as and politeness as that conversation ended up being, SK, didn't change my mind one bit because you know what? It's one thing to boo Santa Claus. It's another thing when you cheer people on the opposite team when they get injured and you sitting next to a player's wife saying, ha ha, your husband just busted his ankle or something. I'm sorry. So no, I will not cheer. I've gotten to the point. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. If Philly and Green Bay were in the NFC Championship game, if it's Green Bay against anybody else, I'm picking anybody else. But it's getting closer for me to where I might actually consider cheering for Green Bay for it to be over Philly. Am I crazy for saying that?
You're crazy for saying you cheer.
Okay, that I would want Philly to lose more than I want Green Bay to lose. How about that? Because right now, you never want anybody else to lose more than you want Green Bay, but it's getting closer, bro.
It's tough because we say that until Green Bay is good and their fans are extremely obnoxious. Now, I think the difference between Green Bay fans and Philly fans is the actual physical nature of the fan base, to where it's like, okay, Philly, you're pushing it a little too far, becoming a little bit too disrespectful. I've gotten to the point to where when it comes to traveling to games, I want to eventually see every NFL stadium. I want to see the Vikings in every NFL stadium in person. Philly is the one location I care not to go to. And the reason is I won't be able to enjoy the game because they have an absolutely terrible fan base. Sorry, guys. Not all of you, but
not everybody. No.
The majority, as far as being there in Philly, I wouldn't be able to enjoy the game. I have nothing against their players. I think their coach is a jerk off. I think Sirianni is a jerk off. I think he's got a big head and he's kind of feeling himself right now. So again, I'm just praying Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can put something together and take out these Eagles, man. I'm just crossing my fingers.
No, I totally agree. And at the end of it, I like Jalen Hurts as a player. And, I like seeing the guy succeed. We'll talk about the quarterback matchup since we just brought his name up here. But, this is strictly to not let Philly fans have some enjoyment. So, all right, let's talk about those quarterbacks. You got the MVP, two-time MVP in Patrick Mahomes. You got Jalen Hurts. Simply put, for me, Philadelphia can win this game a lot of different ways. They can win it defensively. They can win it offensively. If Kansas City is going to win this game, it's because Patrick Mahomes is just going to have to be Superman, which is not to say that their defense is chopped liver. They've gotten some very good defensive performances, particularly for some recent draft picks, which, heaven forbid, you actually hit on some draft picks defensively in the secondary.
I mean, you got to think about it, dude. Imagine if they drafted Justin Jefferson.
Think about that. They would be
that's literally. I feel like that may be the only draft pick they have that's been like a complete bust, or that hasn't been a good addition to that team. Because a lot of people kind of point out Derek Barnett, which was actually the pick that they used from the Sam Bradford trade, who ended up playing a vital part in their 2017 Super Bowl run, and actually had the sack against Case Keenum to force that early strip sack and kind of turn the game around. So
that changed the whole game.
Dude, Philly has been just ridiculous when it comes to draft picks and just maneuvering. Like, I hate to say it because I hate the Eagles so much, but there's some jealousy in there for sure, because the way they've run their franchise as far as football wise has been extremely impressive. Like, I'm jealous. Like,
our boy Dave, what's up? Thanks for joining us. He says go Chiefs as well. Thank you kindly. We're going to put your score predictions in that chat there. We're going to hit those up here a little bit later. And if there's anything specific you want us to touch on, we got a few topics for the Vikings. But if there's anything specific, a certain player you think we should target, or what kind of moves we should make, who we should keep and who we should get rid of as far as our expensive veterans and that sort of thing. But this is the thing that, as a Vikings fan, when I look at these two teams that are about to play for a championship tomorrow, they are similar to the Vikings in positions they have been in the last 5 to 7 years. And it kind of makes me a little envious, because Kansas City was a very, very good team and had a very good quarterback in Alex Smith. But they made the determination, we've reached the ceiling. We've gone as far as we can go with this guy. We're going to roll the dice, trade up and pick a player. Now, in their wildest dreams, they could not have imagined it would have gone as well as it did, but to the victors go the spoils. Secondly, you've got a team in the Philadelphia Eagles who won the Super Bowl in our house in 2017.
Yeah.
With a backup quarterback who was signed dirt cheap because he could be afforded, because that team was winning with a rookie quarterback, a quarterback on a rookie contract. They signed that guy. And they move off that guy and draft another one. And they've completely rebuilt their roster from 2017 to get back to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
It's like, at some point, Vikings, maybe take a look at these two teams and see what they're doing. I'm not, going to get too far down the road about this one player or that one player. I'm talking in an existential sense about the entire roster. But man alive, it's just one of those deals where, can we ever just have nice things just once, SK? Just once, can we have something nice?
I mean, the thing is, had nice things. We've had some of the greatest players of all time on our team throughout this history of this organization or this franchise. And I think that's what hurts the most. That's what hurts the most. We've had quite arguably the greatest receiver in NFL history in Randy Moss on our team. Quite possibly the next greatest wide receiver. I know that may be early to say, but if he keeps putting up the numbers he is putting up and doing what he's doing, he has an argument for it. And Justin Jefferson, you had, arguably top 5 running back in NFL history, and Adrian Peterson. Defensive stars all along the defensive line. We can go on and on about the stars that we've had throughout this franchise's history. We just haven't been able to get that ultimate prize in the Super Bowl, and it's unfortunate, but we got to keep grinding, man.
That's all we can do.
Got to keep grinding, but we're not here to sorrow on the Vikings.
No, not absolutely.
We're here to have fun, man.
Pound for pound, I think you would take Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts, but do you think – some people think that those two are neck and neck. I'm not quite there yet. But some people still think that there is a ridiculously larger gap than I think. I think Jalen Hurts is probably like just one notch below Patrick Mahomes. So looking at this quarterback matchup, and again, it's always fun when they say, well, let's talk about the matchup quarterback versus quarterback. It's like, well, you got to remember that quarterback A plays defense B and quarterback B plays defense A. They don't actually play each other. But talk to me about this quarterback matchup here. If Patrick Mahomes is healthy, you got to give him the edge. But it's been 2 weeks, but is he still going to have any lingering effects? What do you think about the quarterbacks?
I know this may sound a little bit crazy as far as judging Jalen Hurts. I still have the question mark on Jalen Hurts. Like the jury's still out for me on Jalen Hurts. He has a great team around him, great receivers, great offensive line, great running scheme. Obviously, regardless, Philly, it just doesn't matter who's running the ball. Like, they just have a very consistent running game. It's almost like San Francisco. Whoever's back there running the ball is going to run the ball good. But he has so much around him to where I can't say he's on Patrick Mahomes' level yet. I can't. I'm looking with what Patrick Mahomes is working with right now. Travis Kelce, obviously, he's probably the best tight end in the league right now, but
no question. Yeah.
Outside of Travis Kelce, I mean, which defenses are obviously keying on. They're double teaming, they're doing whatever, they're bracketing, they're still finding a way to get Travis Kelce the ball, but then you got guys like Juju, Scantling. You got who else? Sky Moore. You just got a ragtag bunch of guys. Kadarius Toney, a ragtag bunch of guys that Mahomes is making it work. And I believe he led the league in passing yards this year again, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe so. And I saw a stat I was going to bring up, so let's just bring it up here now. Apparently, there's been a stat that the last 6 times the Super Bowl quarterback was the league leader in passing yards.
They've lost. Yeah,
they have lost.
Yeah.
So it's another thing that Patrick Mahomes has, so to speak, another obstacle to overcome. I'll say this: they made their choice when they gave Patrick Mahomes a bucket load of money to say, "Hey, at some point, like any other quarterback, when you get them to market value, you're going to start losing pieces around." And they decided to stick with Travis Kelce. They punted on Tyreek Hill. They haven't missed a beat. I mean, listen, I'd love to – that team tomorrow, if it had Tyreek Hill on it, would be every bit, if not more dangerous, but they haven't seemed to miss a beat. This guy has led his team to 5 straight AFC championship games, and this is the 3rd time he'll be appearing in the Super Bowl. So, it's another example of, if you got a great quarterback and a great wide receiver, which one you should typically lean to. Sometimes does the receiver make the quarterback make the receiver? I mean, look at Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They both took a step back without each other, but Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs on offense, and part of it is Hall of Fame head coach, in my opinion, Andy Reid, being able to just come up with new schemes, but they haven't missed a beat without Tyreek Hill. No, you're right. And conversely, like you said, Jalen Hurts, he doesn't have to apologize for the fact that he's got a lot of weapons around him, because that's what you do when you have a quarterback like that on a rookie deal is you build up the team around him. Philadelphia made the mistake of drafting Rager over Justin Jefferson. And then what they do? They went out and picked up another wide receiver anyway. They weren't afraid. They have surrounded him with talent. I'm sorry. I'm really surprised that this over-under is only 51 points. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored tomorrow. I think both of these quarterbacks are going to be throwing haymakers. I think it's going to be – I'm not going to say it's going to be at the same level as like Brett Favre versus John Elway, where that was two surefire Hall of Famers. I'm not going to put Jalen Hurts there yet, but I think this is going to be an outstanding matchup between the quarterbacks here. I think whoever has the ball last wins.
Yeah, I think difference maker is, can the Kansas City Chiefs defense stop the Philadelphia Eagles run game? We haven't seen Jalen Hurts have to throw the ball for how long? When's the last game that the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts actually had to go out there and throw the ball? What was it against the Bears, the game he got hurt?
Probably. I was going to say the Dallas game wasn't hurt, so it's kind of hard to put that one in that answer because he wasn't actually playing that game. I mean, they had to go score a lot of points in that game. They scored 34, if I recall correctly, but that was a game that he missed. So, no, you're right. That is one key to people who think that Kansas City has a better shot at winning this game and
that shoulder's hurt.
Yeah. Philadelphia has had a cakewalk to get to the Super Bowl. Now, they don't have to apologize for it. It's not their fault that, they got to play a mediocre Giants team, and it's not their fault that Brock Purdy got hurt. But you're right. They have not really been battle tested. They haven't needed to. They remind me a little bit of San Francisco in 2019. Oh, by the way, the team that they faced that day was also Kansas City, where San Francisco just walked all over the Vikings. It wasn't much of a game. They walked all over the Green Bay Packers. They were up, in the fourth quarter. We all know that. But at the end of the day, they just couldn't hold Patrick Mahomes from scoring 3 touchdowns in 8 minutes. But no, Philly, the only thing that I would be concerned if I was a Philly fan is, are we going to be able to turn it back on? Because you're right. They have not had to go full throttle for months, mid-December at best. That's one key for Kansas City is to say, hey, we've been in battles against Jacksonville, as well against Cincinnati. So I think they're going to be the more battle-tested team. And if it gets into a dogfight, it's going to be interesting to see what Philly does.
And side note, this was the reason why I said all you need is a ticket to the dance. Now, granted, Philly was the number 1 seed. They had the bye and, played the lowest seed possible. But this is why you want a ticket to the dance. Regardless of what seeding you are, you don't know. Injuries could happen. You don't know what could happen. So a lot of people were, it didn't matter if we beat the Giants or not because we were going to get smacked by the 49ers the next week. The whole Brock Purdy injury issue could have happened the week before. Who knows? You never know.
Right.
So it's the playoffs. All you need is a ticket to the dance, and we could be sitting in the same position that the Philadelphia Eagles are sitting in right now saying, oh, wow, well, we had a cakewalk to the Super Bowl, but hey, we're here. We just got to win one game.
Right.
So, but no, Philadelphia, they look great all year long. Granted, their schedule being extremely easy, but they look great. The best team in the NFC is playing in the Super Bowl for the NFC this year. I mean, right. I don't think there's any other team that we can argue that, even the San Francisco 49ers.
So ultimately, I'm going to say it like this. I cannot wait. As much fun as this is going to be for the quarterbacks, I cannot wait for the brothers to match up. And no, I ain't talking about the quarterbacks being brothers. I'm talking about the Kelsey Bowl. We've heard this a bazillion times. The brothers.
My guys.
How in the world, if you had 2 sons, would you be? If you're Travis Kelsey's mom, if you're the Kelsey brothers' mom and dad, how do you reconcile this in your mind? Because one way or another, one of your sons going to win. One way or another, your sons are going to lose. It's kind of like Venus and Serena's parents and family every time they were in the finals against each other here. What say you about the Kelsey boys? I'm going to take Travis, but I'm not knocking his brother. I'm just saying that's the guy I would go with if I'm in a back alley. What do you say?
For me personally, it would be easy for me. I would obviously go for Travis. The Chiefs. Go Chiefs. chop them. But no, it's if you're a parent and you're stuck in that situation, I think that's the best possible situation. Like you're chilling. It's a win-win. I mean, obviously you have one kid that's going to be devastated. They both have a Super Bowl already.
This is true.
Like you're playing with house money at this point.
That's a very good point. Right now, it's just bragging rights up for grabs.
You're gonna have at least three Super Bowl rings in your family, regardless of what happens tomorrow. So if I'm Daddy Kelsey or Mama Kelsey, I am chilling. Life is good. Life is good. But go Chiefs, man. Go Chiefs.
Well, we get into
how would you handle it?
I have no earthly idea how I would handle it. I like that's a very good point that you brought up. That and I'm going to circle back to Venus and Serena. Venus and Serena are always just like, hey, whenever I'm not playing and my sister is, I'm cheering for my sister.
Yeah.
I'm only not cheering for her when I'm playing her. And if one of us gets to the finals and one of us doesn't, then we support each other. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's fun for our dad when we're both there, because our dad knows we're both playing we're coming for blood, even though it's against each other. And I imagine that's going to be it. And as a parent, I don't know what the heck I would do. I will say this. You made a very good point. The fact that they both already have a Lombardi trophy makes this, like, if it's the first time for both of them going there where the other one is not guaranteed a trip back, that's a whole nother conversation. So that's a very good point on your spot. But as a parent, I'd probably do what their mom did. Is like, all right, I'm going to get a jersey of each one of them. I'm going to cut it up and sew it up together. And I got one on one side and one on the other. And, I guess I get to cheer anytime somebody scores a touchdown, and I get to cheer louder if Travis does, because he's going to be one to actually score one. It would be utterly hilarious if somehow, some way, there was a situation in the game where his brother could get one. But
what's the line on that? What's the line on Jason Kelsey?
A fumble recovery,
picking up a fumble in the end zone for a touchdown. Imagine put $1 on that and see.
Yeah, I think you win about 10 billion. I think 10 billion to 1 would probably be the odds on that one.
Hey, man, it's $1. It's worth $1, right?
Yeah, think about that for a second.
Oh yeah, speaking of that, can I throw kind of like a side subject in, or topic or segment? Yeah, it's on the Super Bowl. It's on the Super Bowl. But do you do any betting?
It's been a while. I after 3 years of unemployment, I seriously don't have the spare cash anymore. So I haven't for about 5 years. But I dabble. I used to dabble in it a little bit.
So usually I like doing kind of a crazy long shot bet, every prop bet every Super Bowl. So for instance, last year I picked T. Higgins to win Super Bowl MVP, and if the Bengals won that Super Bowl last year, I would have made some pretty good money. But what crazy prop bet per se, or bold prop bet, would you take in this year's Super Bowl to make a little cash? Maybe give some people some help,
All right, let's go to coverage.com. That's got the ultimate prop betting guide here. I saw that just a moment ago. Let's see.
I like you, Justin. You're on.
All righty.
Mr. Info.
Yeah, Mr. Info. Race to no, I don't like that. Which team will score first? That's boring. Team props. Let's see what we got here. Well, that's just points.
Which team will score first? That's pretty much who's gonna win the opening kickoff. Damn near, it feels like.
Yeah, possibly. That's possibly opening kickoff to be no. Come on, give me something better than that.
You gotta dig pretty deep.
Digging here. We gotta do some digging. Okay, I like this. All right, here we go. Each kicker has an over/under of 7.5 points. Obviously, 3 points. Both of them now. They're not against each other. It's just, hey, over/under 7.5 points. What's interesting about how the odds are set up is they have Harrison Buckner at even at 7.5 points. It's the same amount on each side. But for Jake Elliott, the Philadelphia kicker, they have under 7.5 as a little bit of a betting favorite. So you would have to put 140 down to win 100, taking the under. But if you put 100 down, you win 110, taking the over. That's an interesting one. You're not going to make a whole lot there. But I think the reason they have it set this way is because I don't think that they see that Philly is going to be taking opportunities to be kicking field goals. So I'm going to say that if I just between this one, was the first one I saw there, I would say I would take the over on Jake Elliott 7.5 points. One, because it's the only one that is a dog, and therefore that's the one where you have to put the least amount down to win as much. So I'm going to say over 7.5 points for kicker Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it's not all that difficult. It's 2 field goals, 2 extra points, or some combination thereof, 4 extra.
Yeah.
Points. No, you need 5 extra points and 1 field goal. So, no, that does make sense. Basically, do you think that they're going to get 2 field goals or not? So,
yeah, if you think it's going to be somewhat of a shootout, I think I'm going over on both kickers.
Okay.
I think I'm going over on both kickers because you got to think. 2 touchdowns for each team. That's 2 points for each kicker right there. That's a couple more field goals. You're looking at if it's a high 20-point game or a 30-point game, then you should be looking at about 7-8 points each kicker right there.
Yeah, until one of those coaches decides to go for 2, and then that takes an opportunity away. All right, so here's the one that everybody's going to know and love. National anthem singing length. The over-under, at least on this particular site, is 120.5 seconds. So 2 minutes is the 2 minutes is the under, 2:01 is the over. I'm definitely taking over 2 minutes. It doesn't.
Who's singing it?
Country star Chris Stapleton. Is that who it is?
Oh, Chris Stapleton singing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Usually, if it's somebody who goes on, they're going to set that. I remember there was an over-under for the national anthem at about 2 minutes and 18 seconds. If it's just straight up 2 minutes, I'll take the over on that. It's
I think I'm gonna go over on that one too.
All righty.
I think I'm gonna go over on that one.
Okay, this is just for fun here. Color of the Gatorade bath given to the Super Bowl winning head coach.
I bet on this. I won on this one last year, actually.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I bet blue, and it was blue.
Is that right?
I won. I mean, I put a couple bucks now. I think.
Well, yeah, it's not like you win much
down or something like that. But yeah, I think I won like 10 or 15 bucks on this bet.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
The betting favorite is yellow or green. Then you've got orange, blue, red or pink, clear or water. I'm going to take purple at 7.5 to 1 because why wouldn't I? We're talking about long shots here. But all right, we'll see if we can find a couple more sprinkle in here. Otherwise, we're going to get
what were the favorites on that one? Yellow and green?
Yellow and shoot, I hit the back button. Hold on just a
There's
second.
No red? What's up with the
No,
red?
they were in there. I went through them quickly. Hold on just a second. Okay. Yellow/green is the betting favorite.
Okay.
At about 1.5 to 1. Then orange, then blue, then red and pink. And then clear or water, and then purple.
Oh, I'm going red. Red's
going red.
I don't know why red wouldn't be higher on that. Go with red, guys. I won last year on this. Go with red. It's going to be the Chiefs.
All right, well, that's 4.5 to 1. 4.5 to 1, my brother. But
there we go.
I was watching the AFC Championship, the end of that game with my daughter a couple of weeks ago, and she's just like, what's that chant they're doing? So I had to explain the tomahawk chop to her. I had to explain, Chiefs and the Native American thing.
Yeah. Chop.
But we'll circle back to the Super Bowl. And again, put anything in the comments that you would like us to talk about there from the Viking standpoint or from the Super Bowl standpoint. But let's get your thoughts. Everybody was putting out content about why the Vikings were dinking and dunking around and were they going to miss out on getting a halfway decent defensive coordinator or having to settle back to Mike Pettin. Your initial thoughts on the Flores hiring for the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, SK?
We got our guy. That was the guy I wanted initially. We flirted with Desai and Evero, but we came down with the guy Brian Flores. It got testy at the end there. It looked like he might have grabbed the head coaching job, but I think good thing for us that Arizona job isn't very tempting right now. So I think he decided to actually take a role that I think it benefits both sides because you look at it this way. And I know multiple people have said this. Flores comes in is looking to fix the worst defense in the league. We had the worst defense in the league last year. So he's coming in, he's here to fix it. If he improves this defense enough to where we make a deep playoff run, he's now looking at a legitimate head coaching hire. If he's not, then he's coming back, and then he's more than likely going to be one of the top hires, just like DeMeco Ryans was this past season. So and that puts the Vikings in a position to where it's like, okay, we made the right hire. He's fixed our defense, whether that be with guys that we already have on this roster, or whether that be with the young guys that need to catch up. Let's be real. Cameron Dantzler, Andrew Booth, they needed to catch up right now. Cameron Dantzler fell behind, whether that be injuries, whether that be mental. Andrew Booth is mostly injuries. LVII, he's coming in as pretty much a red shirt guy. So, yeah, it benefits both sides.
No, I totally agree. That was the guy that I want. Well, here's the thing. That's the guy that I wanted if the Vikings were going to go in the direction that I think they're going to, which is just to continue pushing forward. They are allergic to the notion of let's take a year and take a step back and clear off the books and get rid of some older players, that sort of thing. That's not the direction that I know. I don't know that I would have necessarily wanted them to head in, but the reality of the situation is that, you know, I've said that I think that they should go a certain direction, and I'm not the owner of the team. So at the end of the day, it doesn't do me any good to continuously say, hey, this is what I think they should do. So having said that, knowing that this is what they were most likely going to do, this is absolutely the best hire you probably could have asked for here. You know, there are times where, you know, you don't want to just blame everything on the previous guy. Just like we said it a couple of times last year when we did shows. We can't blame all of this defensive, you know, garbage on Mike Zimmer just all of a sudden forgetting how to coach. Okay. Yeah. He didn't just forget it all. Now, did his methods get stale? Was he a little too antiquated to 1985? Probably. Did he deserve to be replaced? Yeah, I would say so. Nothing personal. But let's not pretend like we had the 85 Bears defense that were just being misutilized. We've got a lot of old players. And so we can throw all the darts at Ed Donatel we want, and I'm not going to stand in front of him and take some of the bullets for him. But at the same time,
it's a lot of bullets.
Let's make sure that we ultimately remember that it's on players too. So if you're going to go that route, which is the route they probably have gone or going to go, because that's the way they have gone, this was the best way to get the best out of these guys, is to say, hey, I'm going to bring in a guy that's aggressive. I'm not going to bring in a guy that's just going to sit back in a shell, hoping that the other team is going to make a mistake. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. You know, I'm looking forward to a breath of fresh air defensively, regardless of who stays and who goes. And we can talk about some of those players that we think should stay or go, or that we think who will stay and go. But regardless of that, the fact that you have brought in a guy that is not going to just sit back and let you get picked apart, who is going to be aggressive and going to go down swinging, it is already a breath of fresh air. For me, anyway.
I think the biggest thing is accountability. He's going to hold guys accountable. And I think that was the biggest thing this past season of what was wrong with this defense.
Yeah.
We kept hearing, whether it was Patrick Peterson or other guys in interviews or podcasts, saying, we're just getting it together. We're still, getting the scheme right. We're still this, we're still that. But we saw no change, no improvement throughout. None. We actually saw a regression in our pass rush during the season. So I think the lack of holding accountability was our ultimate downfall with our defense last year. We've seen guys like Kendricks. We've seen guys like Daniil Hunter. We've seen guys like Harrison Smith, which I'm not saying they had terrible years last year, but we've seen those guys be elite at their position in a defensive scheme or with a defensive leader that holds them accountable and that gets on them. Like, put it to be quite simple, to that gets on them. That's not just some laid back, we're going to be fine and we're going to have fun out there. And
yeah,
no. Let's go. Like, come on. Like,
the most important thing isn't winning. It's that you have fun. Yeah. I remember my dad telling me that when he was coaching me at soccer when I was 10 years old.
That's how it
even
felt.
Up to 13. But am I crazy for saying that? Because it's just like, well, it's not about it. Yeah, it is. You're being paid millions of dollars. I'm sorry. It's not about just going out there and giving it the old college try and doing your best. At some point, I get it. Ed Donatel was somewhat limited in some of the things that he was going to be able to do because of the roster constraints that he had. He was coming in, and this defense was no better the previous season either. But at some point, Well, my players aren't. It's not the scheme; it's the players. What kind of leadership is that? Even if that's true, even if it's 100% true, which it's not, it's somewhere in the middle. It's both, as we said. But even if that was true, that your players just absolutely weren't doing it, that's not a good idea as a leader. As a leader, you say, all right, this is what I have to work with. It's like being a sous chef working with subpar materials and being expected to come up with a 6-course gourmet dinner. It's probably not going to happen. But at some point, when you bring your dinner out to your guests that have paid money to eat your food, you don't say, sorry, the grocery store only had grade 4 materials for you, so here you go.
Yeah, it's the chef.
At some point, you have to try something different. Like I said, if you bring the house and you get burned for an 80-yard touchdown, okay, well, you tried something different.
Yeah.
And I get it. Part of it was Zadarius Smith, first half of the season, was a man-child, suffered that knee contusion in Buffalo. And since that, for the rest of the season, was nowhere to be found. So I understand that's part of it. But if your pass rush drops off that dramatically because of one player, then you got problems more than just the players and more than just the scheme. It's a little bit of everything. And I get it. Patrick Peterson was probably willing more so than anybody else to defend Ed Donatel. Why? Because he can't play man-to-man anymore. That's why he enjoyed playing the zone, and he was sticking up for the guy.
And he was having a great year, too.
He absolutely was. But at some point, it's just like you're letting Daniel Jones walk all over you twice. You are letting Andy Dalton walk all over you. Teddy Bridgewater, Mike White from the Jets, Mac Jones from the Patriots. You weren't playing a murderer's row of Hall of Fame quarterbacks
at all.
You look like it. You look like you were.
Side note: quarterback play has been terrible this past season.
No, it was down. Yeah,
outside of the top, I'd say maybe 7 to 8 quarterbacks. It was bad. It was really, really bad this year. So, look, there was plenty of opportunities for this team to make a big run into the playoffs. It just took this defense stepping up and doing something and changing something. And they didn't change anything all year. That was the worst part. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, how many times did we do post-game shows or halftime shows saying, you're not going to be able to sustain this. You gotten lucky that you've played backup quarterbacks and you made backup quarterbacks look just good enough to not quite win the game in most instances. You got run out of the building against the Eagles, against the Cowboys. I mean, Jared Goff went through you in that loss against the Detroit Lions. At some point, it's like, okay, we just can't sit back and hope that we get some turnovers. It's funny. You had talked the other day when we were on about Justin Jefferson and the offense, that when he was on, the offense was unstoppable. And when he was off, we pretty much lost the game. There was another stat that was brought to my attention wildcard week that the Vikings were 11-0 in their losses. They were a -9 in the take give, 10 turnovers and only 1 takeaway. And in the 11 close games, they were at least +2 in the take give in all of their victories. So in addition to it being, well, when Justin Jefferson is on, the Vikings offense is on, pretty much you could set your clock by the Vikings getting a turnover or two if they were going to win that game. Because either they were going to get a turnover or two and allow the offense to just stay one possession ahead, or they weren't going to, and they were going to force the offense to play near perfect football, which is an unrealistic expectation, regardless of what you think of the offensive personnel, we'll say. So, so with that said, I am very much looking forward to having a defensive coordinator that's not just going to sit back there. We got a question from Dave. Let's get that up here. What players will follow this defensive coach? That's a good question. And, I had done a video earlier this week, and a couple of other content creators, including our guy Rap, have done so as well, regarding Miami quarterback Xavier Howard, who recently, a couple years ago, signed a contract, but, he's kind of not been happy since Flores left. He had 10 interceptions in 2019 and 5 in 2020, if I got the numbers right, or I might be off a year. But when you have 2 seasons of 15 interceptions in this league, in this day and age, that's nothing to sniff at. He's got a very unfriendly cap number for the Dolphins, but a lot of that is prorated signing bonus. So if the Vikings did trade for him, he would only be about 1.1 million against this year's cap. There's some other cap machinations with that as well. I absolutely said that I would be absolutely interested in a guy like that who played with Flores. I would actually be okay if you gave up a 4th round pick for him, and I'd even be more okay if you perhaps traded a running back who's from that area, who had his homecoming earlier this year, in Dalvin Cook. I mean, first off, let's talk about the player, and then we'll talk about the possibility of the trade. You know, what do you think about Xavier Howard, and would you make a trade for him?
I mean, it sounds easy. It sounds simple. It sounds like everything kind of plugs and fits, and it makes sense. But I know there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, obviously, I'd love to have Xavier Howard on this team. It's a position of need. It's a guy who's going to come in. He knows the system with Brian Flores. And he's obviously going to be a starter on this defense. And we got, like you said, a running back in Dalvin Cook, which they would love a guy like Dalvin Cook, you know, that San Francisco Kyle Shanahan type offense who has a Christian McCaffrey in that offense right now. Why not have a Dalvin Cook in that type of offense mixed with guys like Mostert and whoever the hell they got in
what's
Miami.
Interesting about that point real quick, all of the Miami running backs are free agents, so they're going to have to spend some money. That's another reason I like this deal and why it does actually make some sense for both teams. All of Miami's running backs are free agents. Dalvin Cook is from that area, and again, I know that really doesn't factor into too much, but he would be a good fit for that offense. And let's just call it for what it is. The Vikings need to trim some salary cap here. It's come out in a couple different publications this week that Dalvin Cook said he is not interested in taking the reduction in salary whatsoever. And it's basically said either pay me my contract that you signed me to or find a trading partner or cut me. So
he has the right to feel that way.
Absolutely. Let me be clear. And I said this at the end of both of the videos I did this week.
No hard feelings.
It is no hard feelings. And I do not begrudge any player in the NFL, whether they're for the Minnesota Vikings or anybody else, about getting their paychecks. Nobody is under any obligation to say, well, I'm going to give some of my money back. I mean, imagine your boss calls you in the Monday after the Super Bowl and says, hey, you know what? You've been here for 3 years and you're making $50,000, but I'm going to have to reduce your salary to $35,000. I don't think there's any one of us who would be okay with that. So just to be clear, it's a business thing at this point. It's about value. It's about salary cap. It's about roster construction. So yes, to me, as I said, I would absolutely make that deal. Another target is the, and I forget his name, but he's the free agent cornerback out of Pittsburgh.
Is it Sutton?
Sutton, yes, Sutton. Another guy that had just recently played with Flores in Pittsburgh this season. I would take either one of those two guys. I would prefer Xavier Howard because he instantly becomes your team's number one cornerback. With all due respect, I don't see Patrick Peterson back on this team. You're hoping to re-sign Duke Shelley. I mean, if you could re-sign Duke Shelley and get one of these other two players that we're talking about via free agency and or trade, your secondary instantly becomes light years better than it was last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think Patrick Peterson I think he's probably 75% to 80% gone. So you're going to have to fill that spot. That's one of your starting corner spots, unless you're going to go into this next season with, you know, signing a Duke Shelley and then Cameron Dantzler on the other side or Andrew Booth. Who knows? So
question marks.
I think you have to at the very least sign a quality starting free agent cornerback in free agency this offseason. You got to. Now, if you go out there and get two in trade or free agency, whatever it may be, perfect, great. Then it's not necessarily a big need in the draft because you still got young guys in Andrew Booth, and you have a young guy in Cameron Dantzler, Duke Shelley, who's kind of right there in the middle, has a lot of experience, but still somewhat young. So I think that best case scenario, you pick up two veteran guys in free agency that become your starters, and you have those young guys in Cameron Dantzler. And I'm forgetting the Caleb Evans, who was having a good year until he got injured this past season. Yeah. So, but back to the Dalvin thing, there's a lot of factors that go into the Dalvin Cook trade talk and him not being on this team next year. Yes, you know, obviously we love Dalvin and everything, and it's obviously a business move. But you're also looking at it as, all right, you're not going to pay a running back $14 million. You're just not. I'm sorry. I don't care who it is unless he's carrying your team. He is the focal point of your offense, like a Derrick Henry. Yes, Derrick Henry deserves $14+ million per year as the running back of the Tennessee Titans in his prime. Dalvin Cook is at the point in his career right now to where this is his last year where he's going to have any trade value. This is it. He's not going to hold his trade value after next season. So this is the time to get him for what you can possibly get him for.
He was healthy all year for a change.
He was healthy all year. He didn't have his greatest year, but he was healthy all year. And the biggest thing is that he had moments. He had pops to where it said, okay, well, I still got it. You just got to get me the ball. Yeah. So I think you can go out there and you can get a 3rd-round pick for a Dalvin Cook. I think, and if somebody offers you a 3rd-round pick, you
jump at that. I think 4th or 5th is probably realistic. I mean, if somebody offered you a 3rd, you take that and you run to the league office and say, hey, this trade is approved. Purple Punch 420, thanks for joining us. I know I've had that up there for a minute, but we're going back. You can't expect to run with the current defense, even with Flores. They need to get busy in the first wave of free agency. Here's the key to all of this. Vikings got to clear $24 million just to get to 0. Okay, yep. Not clear $24 million to be able to sign players. $24 million just to get to 0 and to get cap compliant. So we can talk about all of these trade ideas. And part of the reason, again, Xavier Howard was at the top of my list is because his cap hit this year would literally be $1.1 million for a solid veteran who would instantly step in. But to wrap up that point, you get a guy like him, and you get a Duke Shelley re-signed to be your 2 starters. Now Cam Dantzler in his last year of his rookie contract.
Yeah.
And then hopefully a Caleb Evans can come back, but he had 3 concussions, so let's keep that in mind. And then, I mean, again, I'm not looking for anything from Andrew Booth Jr. at this point. At this point, anything that he brings to you is found money, is house money, until he can show that he can stay healthy. So I'm personal. I'm just saying my expectations at this point is I have no expectations for him at this particular point in time. Circling back, Dave has had this up here for a minute, and I even started. So I said I'm not going to lick this because it's actually, again, another topic we're going to talk about. Now, I'm going to first admit that I am admittedly biased. You know, got both of them up there. Got the Vikings here, and I got the Gophers there. What are your thoughts if they use their 1st-round pick on John Michael Schmidt, center from the University of Minnesota? That could be our anchor position for the next 10 years. I'll start with this one. I have to let my bias be put on the side. With my bias, if he's there at 23, I take that dude all day, every day. I'm not going to run and hide from drafting a center in the 1st round because Garrett Bradbury didn't work. That's the purple PSTD in all of us Vikings fans. Oh, we can't take a quarterback because look how Ponder turned out. We can't take a quarterback. Really? If we had said that a couple years ago, we wouldn't have took Justin Jefferson because we don't took Laquan Treadwell. So it is possible. It really is possible, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that if you take a position and the guy ends up bust, that doesn't mean you don't ever take that position in the 1st round again. Listen, if he's available at 23, my heart is going to want them to take him. But if they could trade, the best case scenario for somebody like me who is biased because I've watched this kid play, if they could trade back to say like 28, 29, 30 and recuperate something, because they do need to trade back and accumulate picks if there's value available there and still get him a few picks later and pick up. Yes, I would take him, but then again, I'm biased. What say you, SK? Give an unbiased non-Gophers opinion here for us.
I'm just at the spot where we can't take a center that high in the 1st round. And that's no shot at him as a player. I've seen him play. He's amazing. He's going to be a great player in the NFL. But at the same time, with the position of this team that we're in right now, I think we look at the positions that we need more help as far as the cap hit. A center's not necessarily going to make or break your cap. A receiver will. A free agent receiver will. A free agent center, not necessarily. But I do know Garrett Bradbury, it's like $10 million or something like that.
It's going to be at least 10. He's unrestricted. They did not pick up his 5th-year option, so he's not going to be cheap coming back. And frankly, do we even want a Garrett Bradbury back? Haven't we seen enough? He's played for 4 years for us. His first 3 years were bad to mediocre at best. Yeah, he played pretty good last year. Yeah, funny contract year. He played better. Do we want Garrett Bradbury back? Do you trust him at all? Because I don't think I do. What do you say?
I'm ready to move on. If we bring him back at a super discount rate, cool. But I think somebody's gonna give him some money. They're gonna throw some money at him. But I don't know, man. It's so hard to tell right now because so much happens leading up to the draft, and even just leading up to your actual pick. Like nothing's decided. You're the 23rd pick, right? We're 23.
23rd pick, yes.
We're the 23rd pick. So going into that draft, when we're sitting at the 10th pick, we still don't know who's going to be there. We don't know who we're going to draft at that point. And Kwesi and KLC probably don't know who they're going to draft at that point because so much can happen in 13 picks. Trades happen and things swing around. People call you. You may trade up. So you don't know. But if he's there and there's not necessarily a player that really stands out of a position of need, I wouldn't be mad, but I wouldn't be super excited for the pick. I'd be okay, cool, great. We got center on lock,
Well, what do we do then? If we're not going to re-sign Garrett Bradbury, and maybe that's a little too high to take,
yeah.
Then what? We just go to the pawn shop and find out. I mean, what's your alternative? I guess would be the best way to ask the question.
I think if you're able to find a way to trade down and maybe pick him up early in the second round, I think that would be best case scenario.
Okay.
And this is just kind of early. We're throwing crap against the wall right now because I haven't really even done any draft research or anything yet, just outside of what I saw last season. But yeah, no, like if you're able to trade out of that first round and grab some more picks, maybe look, if we can somehow trade out of the first round and grab a first round pick in the following year's draft, that would be a home run. I know we wish that every year,
right?
But and this all kind of ties back to that quarterback position too. And we're not going to get into the Kirk Cousins talk. We'll be here all night.
No, we're not doing
it.
But not doing it.
Yeah, we're not doing it. You want to have that extra first round, second round pick in your back pocket to where if you need to move around in the first round sometime or move up, you can use it. So I think try and find a way. That's my number one right now until I start diving into players in this draft. My number one option that I want this team to do is try to trade out of the first round. And even if you got to completely trade your first round pick and maybe trade back to the end of the second or early third round to grab an extra first round pick, do it. Plan for the future. Do it.
Speaking of planning for the future, I've added on the ticker. If you all don't already subscribe to Purple and Gold for Days, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on this video here. And if you do not already, please subscribe to the new channel, Purple and Scold Media. That is SK's new YouTube channel. A whole new network. We're going to have some more announcements. I think we're trying to have a live draft show simulcasted on all of the Purple and Scold Media family channels here, and that includes Purple and Gold for Days. That includes Minnesota Sports Talk, Purple Pocket Podcast, GG Sports. You know them all. But if you could, please do us a big favor and hit the subscribe buttons on both Purple and Scold Media and Purple and Gold for Days. We will definitely be having the announcements there. And like I said, we're probably going to try to run a live draft show. And if SK has his way, we'll be here all night just for the Vikings to trade out the first round. But
oh man,
how much fun, man!
Gotta love it.
At the end of the day, could you imagine us being here all night and then Rap just be losing his mind? But anyway, I digress. Shout out to my boy Rap. He and his guy were out to dinner tonight, so he couldn't make it. But having said all that, realistically, let's get into a couple of more veterans here. We talked about Patrick Peterson. We both think that it's probably unlikely that he's going to return. And frankly, at this point, I don't think his skill set fits with what Flores wants to do. I mean, he was always a tight man-to-man guy in his prime. At this point, he's beyond his prime, and that's why the zone was such a very good fit for him, and I just don't see him back. We talked about the cornerback situation here. Let's talk about a couple of stalwarts on defense, and let's just go with them together. I'm going to say both Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith. I'll let you start with your thoughts on those two players. What do you think we do with them?
Harrison Smith, I think, is a lock to stay, especially with the Brian Flores hire. And he shouldn't go anywhere, but you got to restructure that contract somehow. And I think Harry's a guy that wants to retire a Viking. He wants to stay with this team. So I think you're going to be able to restructure there. Kendricks is a little different. I love Kendricks, obviously, but the production is just not there, man. And Kendricks is a guy that relied a lot on his speed. And this isn't a shot at Kendricks by any means, but he's a player that relied a lot on his speed at his position, working sideline to sideline. Well, he doesn't necessarily have that speed anymore. So when you don't have that speed and you relied on it so much earlier in your career, you're not the same player anymore. So I think it may be time to move on from Kendricks, unfortunately. I wouldn't be mad if we worked something out and brought him in cheaper. But if we're really looking towards the future, I think it's time for Asamoah to come in there and get some run, whether that be Kendricks being gone or whether that be Hicks being gone. I think Asamoah, it's time for him to get in there, and I think linebacker is one of those positions that you're looking at in the late in the first round with that 23rd pick as well. So, but I think Harrison Smith, you're staying. I think he's a lock. We work something out. Eric Kendricks, I think it's kind of, I'm going to say 40-60. He leaves.
Oh, that high even. Okay.
Yeah, 40-60. Yeah, something like that.
Eric Kendricks' biggest problem working against him is that he doesn't have any guaranteed money left in his contract. He's got 1 year left. And I believe if the Vikings cut him, he's the least amount of dead cap space, and he's also the most amount of cap space that they would recoup if they were to just let him walk or show him the door, so to speak.
Yep.
Before the Flores hiring, I said it was 95% that he was gone. I'm going to say that there's still about a 15% chance that he's back now. And the only reason I say that is I do think that Flores might stump for him a little bit from the standpoint of, hey, this guy before last year was not the guy that was the signal caller, the quarterback on defense, who the defensive coordinator calls plays into and who's responsible for getting people where they were. That was Anthony Barr. This past season, it was Eric Kendricks. So in addition to maybe him losing a step here or there, playing in a different system than he had been playing since his college days, and also having the responsibility, even if that maybe that contributed to him to being, out of spots, a step slow, not being where he was supposed to be. I realize that that's going out on a pretty big limb. I'm simply saying I'm going to move my percentages from him being back at about 5% to about 15% because I could see that. Now, with that being said, all of that hinges on the fact that he's still got to have to take a renegotiated deal. There's no way I'm paying him his contract. And again, I say that in the context of, I'm sorry, it's a business thing and we got salary cap concerns there. I agree with you on Harrison Smith. I'm really excited to see Harrison Smith get back to the days of what he was under Mike Zimmer.
Yes.
I think he blitzed a total of 6 times this year, and it didn't ever work because it's like, oh, look at that. Harrison Smith is up on the line of scrimmage. I think he's probably going to blitz on this play because they haven't done it all year.
Yeah.
They kind of pretty much telegraphed and gave it away every daggone time that he was going to run a blitz because, well, that's just kind of how they were. Let me get some shout outs in here. It's been here a minute here. We're going to get Dave back up here. Smith stays, Kendrick goes. Yeah, we agreed on them on there. Yeah. Need more defense than offense. Absolutely. Absolutely. We didn't even bother bringing him up because there's no question. Jordan Hicks, gone, right? Anything to say on that? We're good.
Yeah, and Hicks is a good player. He's just one of those guys where it's kind of age is catching up with him. He needs to be in the right scheme and the right kind of culture. And I think it's time to go young at the linebacker position. It's time to go young, man.
My favorite handle of all the guys who show up here. My worthless opinion. I always love that one. Aren't there going to be some playable younger free agent linebackers coming up? I don't know enough about the linebacking free agent pool. I've done my best to try to keep up with offensive line, wide receivers, and cornerbacks. So I really worthless can't give much of an opinion. It would ultimately be worthless because I really haven't done too much into that. I'm just going to say it like this. I have zero desire to see Jordan Hicks back. He didn't really offer much to me. He's another guy that has a very low dead cap hit number and can open up some salary. So to me, it's just I don't see a feasible option there. And that's where Kwesi Flores, and O'Connell are going to have to put their heads together and say, okay, listen, we got last year's draft, some ups and downs and a lot of incompletes. I'm not going to say it was a failed draft. I'm going to say some incompletes thus far.
Question marks.
A lot of question marks. This is where they're going to have to earn their money because now they've said, okay, we've got a year. We know what we have and we know what we need. This is where Kwesi's going to earn his money, is to say, hey, listen, I've got, this much salary cap space that I have to clear just to get even and some more to actually have some money available. So he's going to have to do what he was brought here to do, which is be that stock market moneyball genius and say, all right, how am I going to fit all of these pieces together here with the limited budget that I have? But I'll try and do some digging worthless before my next video that comes out to see what we got in the linebacking core as far as free agents go here. So with that, go ahead.
Real quick before we get out of here. With the linebackers, I think we got young guys that are ready to play behind Kendricks and Hicks.
Definitely Asamoah for sure.
Definitely Asamoah. I think we need one more young guy. So I think we're going to look in the draft for that, though. Flores is a guy that's been very, very good at finding talent on the defensive side of the ball in the draft. So I think we're going to lean on him to find that next linebacker and probably another corner.
So let's circle to a couple of names on offense. But, man, has it been an hour already? Holy cow, we just keep going.
Yeah, right, man.
Well, we already talked a little bit about Dalvin Cook with the trade ideas with Miami. We'll circle back to the offense and maybe give a couple more Super Bowl takes before we get up out of here. And, again, anybody wants to put a score prediction for the game, go ahead and put it in there.
Run
that like button on the channel and run that subscribe button on both Purple and Gopher Days as well as Purple and Scold Media.
Yeah.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Adam Thielen, your thoughts. What we're gonna do? What should we do?
I think we're gonna end up working something out with them. I think I think they're being very transparent with each other. I think Adam Thielen knows the situation. Hey, I got a bit, and he said it in his interview. I wasn't on Pat McAfee or one of those other shows. He said, "Look, I got a big cap hit." And he was saying it like, I still want to get paid. And they went into detail. Actually, they said, hey, well, they can just move that to a signing bonus, and then it'll only be this much against the cap. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'm open to that. Blah 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 blah. So I think Adam Thielen doesn't want to leave, but he's not done playing football.
Right.
So I just feel like he wants to feel like he's still wanted here. And I think there's a way that you work that out with him. Now, I think regardless of whether you bring him back or not, you still got to go out there and you got to grab another wide receiver. You got to. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't KJ a free agent?
I'll double check.
Or has he got one more year?
I can't remember if he's got one or...
He might have one more year. I think he has one more year. So, but...
he's got one more year. Yeah, one more year.
You can't go into the season, and nothing against KJ again, but KJ can't be our number 2 wide receiver. Adam Thielen can't be our number 2 wide receiver.
That's the thing. Neither one of them can at this point, if we're being honest.
You got to go out there and you got to find a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. Free agency, you're not going to find one because it's going to be extremely expensive for receivers in free agency just for that position. You got to try and possibly hit one in the draft, or possibly swindle something with the trade. You never know. You never know what they have up their sleeve. But I think Adam Thielen and the Vikings figure out a way to work something out, and he's back with the Vikings next year.
Okay.
And he retires a Viking.
I would love to see that, but at the same time, I wouldn't like to see it at the cost of, well, we're just going to convert your signing or your roster bonuses to signing bonuses, and we're just going to take your $19 million cap hit and we're going to reduce it to 11 by just sticking $8 million more on the next 2 years cap. I mean, at some point, we can't just always just kick the can down the road, even if it is for hometown guys or our favorite players. So it's going to be an interesting, as I've coined on my show, mental gymnastics from Rob Brzezinski, Kevin O'Connell, and as well as Kwesi Mensa to figure out how this is all going to work. All right. With all that being said, a couple more shout-outs I want to give in here. Dave is like, he'd be a great number 3 wide receiver for the right amount. I'm not sure if he means Thielen or KJ because it actually fits both of them.
Both, yeah, both.
Definitely need a deep threat receiver in the draft. I'm gonna say this: Rap put me onto that Tank guy that he put out a video a couple weeks ago. I don't know realistically if he's going to be available there, and if he is available at 23, if that's too high. He projects, I think, to be a high second round pick. I definitely watched the tape after watching Rap's video on it, and I definitely would absolutely love to see that guy. But I don't know how realistic that's going to be with just where the draft is going to fall.
Mm-hmm.
With all of that being said, let's circle back to anything else on the Vikings you wanted to. Oh, yes. Justin Jefferson, congratulations. Offensive player of the year, play of the year. Basically, you won MVP for non-quarterbacks because, well, we already know that the quarterbacks are going to win the MVP, and you can make the argument that that should be the case. But props to Justin Jefferson finally getting the acknowledgement at the award ceremony. That was absolutely well-deserved.
Yeah, well-deserved.
Go to my channel. I got a highlight video of all of his big plays that he had there this season. With that being said, I don't think we need to say much more. Justin Jefferson, he is him. So, circling back to the Super Bowl, what's your final score predictions? Anything wacky you see? One of those like, wait, can you believe that on Monday when they're talking about it? What's your big thing that people are going to be talking about, or what's your score prediction? That's
okay. I mean, I've been pretty transparent. I think the Chiefs win this game. Just off the simple fact, I haven't seen the Eagles being tested. And the Chiefs don't get blown out. I don't remember the last game the Chiefs have been blown out, or that it's been more than a one-possession game. This is going to be a tight game. What's the last tight, close game the Eagles have been in?
Probably that loss to Dallas, if I'm thinking.
And that was with Minshew, wasn't it?
Yes, that was with Garner Minshew. They were technically in a close game against the Giants in Week 18 when they weren't even trying, so I'm not going to count that one. All right, let me see if I can pull up the Eagles schedule here real quick.
I know Colin Cowherd was saying something today. The last legitimate starting quarterback they played was Week 4.
Is it that far back?
It was Week 4 is the last legitimate starting quarterback that they played. He said legitimate or playoff quarterback.
All right. So, again, the Week 18 game against the Giants, whatever. The game against the Saints, whatever. The Cowboys, they played. The Bears, Giants, Titans, Packers. I mean, yeah, that's right, because the Packers had Jordan Love for a good portion of that game. The Colts come in. No, you ain't. Okay. Yeah, they haven't really faced anybody. And
what was their Week 4 opponent?
Their Week 4 opponent was. Am I looking at this right? This is the Philadelphia Eagles regular season. Vikings Week 2. Week 4 was the Jaguars and Football Fabio.
Trevor Lawrence. That was the last playoff quarterback that they played.
Well, you're not counting Dak Prescott and the Cowboys?
Dak didn't play. Cooper Rush played.
Yes. Excuse me. I thought he played the second game. No, you're right. I'm tripping. You're right.
Yeah.
So, other than, Daniel Jones, technically, I guess. But no.
Oh, yeah, Daniel Jones.
Technically Daniel Jones, but at the same time, you're right. They haven't really played anybody quarterback-wise.
And three out of their last 5 games have been against the Giants.
That's a good point. That's right. Now, granted, Week 18, we're not gonna say all that much.
And I
was gonna say Dak Prescott did play the second game, but Jalen Hurts didn't play that game. So,
yeah.
All right, I get what you're saying now. Okay. Anyway.
So, hey, look, man, this is the NFL. This is the NFL now. You never know. All you need is a ticket to the dance, man. But no, Chiefs. I got the Chiefs winning. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, but I think the Chiefs pull it out. I think they're going to win by, I'm going to say they win by 9 points.
9? Wow.
I'm going to say they win by 9.
I've been saying Chiefs by 7, and people are looking at me like, really? I think it's going to be like less than 7. You saying 9. Now, is that your bias of hating Philly, or do you really think they're going to
– It might be a little hate, but just thinking football-wise, just win-lose.
Right.
I keep thinking about the game. I keep thinking Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid against his former team.
Yeah.
You got the best tight end in the league in Travis Kelce. You got one of the best defensive linemen in the league in Chris Jones.
He showed up in a big way on that last drive against Cincy. Holy cow, yeah.
The last memory that we remember of KC in a Super Bowl was them just getting absolutely manhandled by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah. They have a much improved offensive line that has a huge responsibility and huge task of holding down the Eagles defensive line. But I think they're up for it, and I think they can somewhat contain that. So it just everything is pointing Chiefs to me, and then on top of me hating the Eagles so much, I'm like, yeah, it's got to be the Chiefs. So I'm gonna go 35-26.
35-26. All right.
35-26 Chiefs, and I'm going to say that Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl MVP, and further adding to his legacy of being the next GOAT. Amen.
With the retirement of Tom Brady,
amen,
there are no longer any quarterbacks in the NFL that have multiple Super Bowl rings. So Patrick Mahomes is the only one at the moment that can make that happen, or he has the best opportunity or the closest opportunity to do so. So, again, I said Chiefs by 7. I'm going to say 36-29 just to be weird about it.
That's just like my score pretty much. Just another field goal.
Just another kick there. Goal. So, I'm going to say that part of me is admittedly biased. Listen, I can't stand Philly fans so much. I didn't even want the Philadelphia Phillies to win the World Series. I don't care about baseball. I don't even care.
I'm the same way.
I don't care who it was. Just as long as Philly ain't winning something, so those fans
screw everything Philadelphia. Everything.
And it's funny. Somebody asked me, like, why do you guys hate Philly fans so much? I'm like, you want to know what it is? Philly fans are in the same sandbox out on the East Coast with New York and Boston. New York and Boston are like the two bullies on the playground. And Philly thinks that they could be at the same level of bully that those two towns are. I'm like, Philly, congratulations. You don't want a Super Bowl in our house. Congratulations. Your team just won the World Series. And Minnesota sports ain't got nothing since the Lynx, and before that, the Twins back when I was 12 years old. We get that. But you are not New York and Boston. So stop trying to be New York and Boston. It's okay to be fandom. It's okay to talk trash. But when you start throwing bottles of beer and full cans of beer at people, you done completely lost all respect that I have. But having said all of that, please keep it tuned to Purple and Gold for Days. And as I said one more time, please subscribe to Purple and Scold Media. That is the new mothership for all of the family. Again, myself, Purple Pocket Podcast, Minnesota Sports Talk, GG Sports. We all going to be contributing to the new channel. Please hit the like button and hit that share button for anybody that missed this. Again, this will be right up on YouTube as soon as we hit the end button. If you missed any part of that, I would absolutely. Oh, hold on. That's a good one. Would be very satisfying to see Mahor have more rings than Aaron Rodgers. Yep. Dave, my guy, Eagles fans are bleeping garbage. I absolutely agree. And again, we're just talking about the crazies. We're not talking about everybody. But having said all that, but no, to your point about Patrick Mahomes, it would be good because the NFL needs something. We need a guy like that. If nobody has multiple Super Bowl, people are already talking. I'm sick of seeing Patrick Mahomes win. I'm like, you're the type that didn't like Michael Jordan winning, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Winners win, man. Winners win.
Sorry. But having said all that, keep it tuned to Purple and Gold for Days, as well as Purple and Scold, as well as the rest of the family. We're going to have content all throughout this week, reviewing the Super Bowl, talking about what moves the Vikings are going to make now. And once the Super Bowl ends and the league year ends, we are just a couple of weeks away from free agency, keep you with any breaking news about contracts or players that may or may not get re-signed and all that good jazz. We're going to have live content on draft night, and we'll probably have a live free agency show as well. So keep it in tune for that. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. For now, thank you kindly again for joining us. SK, my brother, it's been fun as always. Skull Chiefs. Skull Vikes. To the next episode. Good night.
Peace.